Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Today is Season 6, Episode 6, and today we're going to be looking at some safeties. Safety is a pretty low need for the Steelers in all. We don't really need much of them, and officially, when I'm done with safety today, we'll be halfway through with 26 days left before the draft. I'm recording this on April 3rd. And that being said, we actually have the rest of our position order filled out. So after safety, we go into running back, quarterback, then wide receiver, then interior offensive line, then edge, and then we finish with interior defensive lineman, which I'm pretty cool with. I feel like in case there's any mix-ups or problems, that if we don't get to interior defensive line, I won't be very mad about it. Interior defensive line should be the Steelers' least desired position in general, like in my opinion at least. I can't really think of something less other than like specialist, but very cool that we're about halfway through and that we have the rest of our rotation done. But let's go into some Steelers news first. And it's been kind of a fun trend. This happened on the cornerback episode as well. But today, for the safety preview, we have two bits of Steelers safety news. So the first bit is Steelers news is that former Steelers safety Sean Davis has signed with the Colts on a one-year deal. There's no details yet, but I'm hoping and praying that it is over $1 million and can possibly cancel out the Higgs signing in the comp formula. Nick Corte, an expert on the comp pick formula, said that the Hague signing somehow cancels out the pick that the Steelers would have gotten for Mike Hilton, despite being about $4 million average per year less than Hilton's deal, and Hilton likely getting more playing time. When he said that blew my mind. He's typically not wrong, though. This might be an instance where he's wrong, because I just didn't understand there was such a big discrepancy in the money, and I think that by the end of the year, the snaps is going to be a big discrepancy, because Hilton's a starter, Hague is going to be a swing tackle, and or backup, unless there's an injury. Knock on wood, because I do not want any of the Steelers tackles to get injured this year, but so I'm hoping that might cancel out Hague, because it might be closer, because Hague is only $2.2 million per year, somewhere around that, just a little bit over $2 million. So to me, if Sean Davis gets $1 million, it should possibly cancel out. The playing time will probably be close as well if he makes the roster. There's no guarantee. So the second bit of safety news is that the Steelers brought in former Raiders and Browns safety Carl Joseph for a visit. Steelers showed a lot of interest in him in the 2016 draft, so this is interesting. And the Steelers need some safety depth behind Minka and Terrell, so this would be a pretty big signing. I would like this for the Steelers, but he left without a deal. That was like 2 days ago, so nothing happening right now on that front. He might be weighing his options, might be waiting a little bit later, but we'll have to see. So other bit of Steelers news that doesn't have to do with safeties, they made two signings official, signing former Dolphins, Jets, and Chargers running back Kellen Ballage to a one-year deal. This is probably because he's a short yardage specialist, because his 1.8 yards per carry last season wasn't it, but I mean, he was really good in like getting that 1 yard you need. So despite having that really bad yards per carry, he might be the specialist for that, which I wish Benny Snell would have been that, but it just doesn't look like he can be, but it is what it is. Ballage is not guaranteed to make the roster, but this might kick Jalen Samuels off. We'll have to see. The other signing was Matthew Sexton, a wide receiver formerly from Eastern Michigan. He went undrafted in 2020, but after the Steelers were at Michigan's pro day, he was trying out and having another pro day to show his skills to other teams, and the Steelers signed him. So that is pretty cool. I hope the best for him, because it'd be a cool story to be an undrafted free agent. Obviously, the Steelers are pretty good when picking wide receivers, so hopefully they found another gem in the rough. But anyhow, I think that will lead me into my prospects. I have 4 today, 3 free safeties. It unfortunately worked out that way, and only 1 strong safety. I originally had 2 free safeties, 2 strong safeties, but I went to go look at Yusuf Corker, which some of you might be hearing that and say, what? Well, I didn't realize Yusuf Corker wasn't coming out this year. I thought Yusuf Corker was coming, and I started looking at him, and then I found out, he said he's returning for the 2021 season. Well, that's a shame. So, Yusuf Corker was from Kentucky, if any of you guys are not familiar. But so I had to drop him, but maybe I'll look at him next year. I feel like that might be fun. Anyhow, let me start with my first prospect, and that's Trevon Merrick. Please excuse me if I say his name wrong. Every time I look at his name, I want to say Moehrig, but it's Trevon Moehrig. He's from Texas Christian University. He is 6'1" and 202 pounds, and he is one of the 3 free safeties. He was not highly rated coming out of high school, being regarded as a jack of all trades, yet master of none, having played receiver, cornerback, and returner for his Texas high school, but not being considered a top 100 prospect in Texas. Regardless, he still got offers from Ole Miss, Minnesota, Northwestern, and OSU, but decided on staying home in Texas with TCU. As a true freshman in 2018, Moehrig was a special teams ace and even won his team's special teams MVP award. The next year, he was given more of a chance on defense with a new position compared to what he had played in high school, safety. Through 12 games, he was able to make 62 stops, 1.5 being for a loss, forcing 2 fumbles, making 11 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions. This was enough to earn first-team All-Big 12 recognition. In 2020, he played in 10 games, put up the same amount of production, just had less games to play, but made 47 tackles, 2 for a loss, 9 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions to score first-team All-Big 12 again. Following his junior season as a Jim Thorpe Award finalist, he declared for the draft. So starting with the positives, he is fast with a smooth back pedal. I felt like his speed was really, really good on tape. I was happy with it. I thought he was good getting across the field and moving across the field. And he has much faster play speed than shown at his pro day. He attributed a bad pro day to just having a problem in his back kind of spurred up, but I believe that. He really looks way faster on tape than what his pro day produced. I think he produced a 4.58, somewhere in the high 5s, but I think that he can do better than that because he's a quick accelerator that gets downhill fast. I've watched a lot of tape on him, and I felt comfortable with his speed, and more than comfortable. I feel like it was much better than what he got to show at his pro day. Likely probably shouldn't have participated in the pro day because of that injury, but I mean, I give him respect for trying. It might have lowered his draft stock a little, though. It depends if teams can see through that and just... Because if they watch this tape, and these are NFL pro teams, I have to imagine that they're doing their due diligence and know that he plays faster than he actually runs, than he actually ran at his pro day. But anyway, he is more than willing in the run game. He gets involved. I saw him coming down all the time, and I'm happy with that. It's a little bit different for safeties. I expect safeties to be willing. I kind of come into cornerbacks more like, okay, is this guy going to want to help or no? But there are still some safeties that still just don't get involved. So I'm happy to see that he was more than willing. Then he was solid in man coverage against all positions, including tight end. He matched up against a 6'7" tight end in one of the games I watched and snagged a one-handed interception off a deflection. I was pretty happy with that. I mean, like I said, he's only 6'1", and I say only because 6'1" is tall to me, but compared to a 6'7" tight end, I feel like that's pretty impressive, and I like that he is kind of able to cover any position if he's manned up. So I was a fan of that. Then he's great working through traffic and getting off of blocks. I felt like his hand-to-hand combat was pretty good, getting off blocks, getting around blocks, just being able to find the ball. I thought that was a pretty good. Then being a special teams ace to start his college career is a huge plus. It could be a potential replacement for Dangerfield in that regard because, I mean, even if he can't come on immediately and be a starter, because obviously you have Minkah Fitzpatrick and Terrell Edmunds as the starters, like you're not expecting this guy to start immediately. He can contribute right away on special teams, so that would be good if the Steelers wanted to take him, let him develop, and he could still get on the field in some way. So going to the bad things, he has bad pursuit angles and inconsistent tackling. Too many times did I see him overrun and underrun tackles. It was just, and he's not a sound wrap tackler either. He was leading and to a lot of players escaping his tackle attempts with his weak wrap-up tackles. It was just kind of frustrating to watch because I felt like he was a better player and I saw more better tackles, but he was just so inconsistent with it. The overrunning was bad. I thought that the overrunning and with the pursuit angles was bad. He doesn't know how to control his speed. He doesn't recognize his own speed. He's not good at timing it because he's got, like I said, he's got good speed. And it causes him to overrun his tackles. But yeah, he did underrun a few. He's just really bad at taking pursuit angles. Then going back to what I said about his pro day, that back injury that flared up his pro day is a concern for me. I think it's an injury he's been dealing with, and to be this late in the process, this far away from the college football season, to be dealing with stuff like that, that concerns me for his first year as a rookie. I don't know how long it will persist, but back injuries are tough. They're tough to work through, and I believe that it really limited his pro day. So if it really limited his pro day, who knows if he needs surgery? If he needs surgery, this changes the game quite a bit because now you're not getting an immediate contributor on anything, and it might make you. It's kind of a risk. It's more of a risk. You don't know if surgery is much different now. It's not an end all for players like it used to be maybe 15, 20 years ago. But still, not getting the satisfaction right away might not be a good thing. And then you don't know if it does change him. There are guys that come back from injuries still and are not as good as they were. Then he has little experience in zone coverage. I expected at least a little cover too, but I felt like every play he was manned up. So I don't know. That might be a turnoff for some teams because teams that run primarily zone or cover 2 are probably not going to want him as much compared to a guy that they know is more versatile or can do both man and zone schemes. So that's something to consider. Then he has bad vision when it comes to the run game. He struggles to find the ball at times. It was more inconsistent because he was pretty good at working through traffic at times, like when he wanted to. But then, like when it came to actually getting to the guy he needed to, he looked a little lost. It's kind of funny when you're good at managing through traffic, but you can't find the ball. It's almost kind of pointless to be able to get through it if you don't know where you're going. You know what I'm saying? But going along with that, sometimes it takes him longer to recognize run plays and get downhill. He has the speed to get there to make up for that, but it does take him a little bit longer to process what is going on. Then on special teams, I watched him fumble as a returner in the West Virginia game, so that was unfortunate to see and not good on one of the very few special team snaps I got to see of him. So not ideal. That's not his forte as a returner. The kick was short and it went to him, but still not great to see. Then the last thing I'll say is that he needs to maintain better balance when coming to tackle. So overall, honestly, Merrick being considered the top of the safety class told me a lot. That being that this is a very weak safety class. Not that Merrick is terrible, he's just pretty raw. With a back injury that's lingering, I wouldn't be willing to consider him as a first rounder, despite some putting him at the end of the first. He projects much more as a second rounder that could get some special teams time and defensive playing time in certain packages immediately, but I don't think he could be an immediate starter. Personally, it's only specific packages that he could come in. Wouldn't be a starting safety. Maybe for one of the teams with the worst safeties, but I just can't see it. If I was a team that needed safety, this draft class kind of not very good for that because I really don't think many teams are getting an immediate starter. Obviously, I only looked at 4, but still. But again, he could develop into something great, and the special teams ability are going to get him on the football field immediately regardless. So that's good. I think personally he's going to fall into the second round. I think that after the pro day with the injury problem, I think that is actually going to worry some teams. People were already iffy on if he was a first rounder at all. I think he's going to be early second round for a team like the Jaguars, Jets, like one of literally the first 5 picks, Falcons, one of those guys. Regardless. So to form my opinion, I watched his highlights. I watched versus Oklahoma in 2019, versus Purdue in 2019, versus OSU in 2019, then versus West Virginia in 2020, versus OSU in 2020, and then I watched the Oklahoma offense versus TCU defense in 2020. And may I say that watching safety when they're not actually pointed out to you sucks. They move around and they're so versatile and they're usually off the screen, so trying to find those guys is tough. So watching the offense versus defense for this was pretty rough for me personally. But going to my next prospect, I have Paris Ford. He is from Pittsburgh. He is 6 foot, 197 pounds, and he is the only strong safety I'm looking at today. Oh, but I forgot to mention, I kind of did something fun this time. I'm kind of going to give you a spoiler on John's prospects, but 3 of my prospects I took because I got their running mate to the prospects that John took. So we have both the guys from Pittsburgh, both the guys from Missouri, and both the guys from TCU because he has our Darius Washington. That was the one I forgot. We only have one guy that didn't match up because he took someone that didn't their line mate wasn't declaring for the draft this year, so we have one that's not at the same school, but I found that pretty funny. So we have the free safety and strong safety for 3 different schools. Anyway, Ford has Pittsburgh in his blood. both growing up and going to high school there. He came out of high school as a 4-star recruit coming off a state championship and got offers from tons of great schools, including Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Penn State. But as I said, Ford has Pittsburgh in his blood and chose to stay right where he was at. He redshirted his freshman year in 2017 and then really didn't do much in 2018 either, only getting to play in 4 games as a mostly special teams role and making 5 tackles. However, in 2019, he was able to get a crack at the starting defensive lineup, and he ran with it. He had a massive 97 tackles, with 60 of them being solo, 3 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, a defensive touchdown, and 11 passes defense, which earned him first-team all-conference recognition. In 2020, he was set for another great season, but after losing to North Carolina State, Boston, Miami, and Notre Dame, he decided to opt out following the 5th game of the season to prepare for the NFL. Still, he put up 41 tackles with 30 being solo, another 3 interceptions through just 5 games, and 3 more passes defense before declaring for the NFL draft. So what's good about Ford is that he lays the boom. He is a hard-hitting safety, man. He is really hard-hitting. He's brutal, and he looks for it every play. He does not let up. He wants to hit you. He is violent. He wants to make sure you know he's there. Even on plays where the ball is uncatchable and stuff, where it's just barely in the fingertips, the quarterback throws it bad, he is ready to hit a guy as hard as he can to just remind them what's going to happen. He is scary. He is really, really violent and scary, but like in a good way, as funny as that is. He plays with that swagger and confidence too. He plays with the idea that he is the best player on this field and that he is going to destroy anyone that gets in his way. I love the swagger and confidence. I loved watching him after every play, just kind of doing his thing, shit-talking a little, but backing it. It wasn't like he was bad when he was doing it. He was backing his play, backing the shit-talking with his play. Then somehow he always gets the right angle to make those big hits. It's really shocking. Like usually, yeah, like hard-hitting safeties like Cam Chancellor and Ryan Clark, like you saw them get a bunch of hard hits like a couple times a game, and I'm sure they did more in college. I didn't really watch any of their college tape because that was so long ago, and I was barely into football at the time when they were coming out of college. I guess not Ryan Clark. Cam Chancellor's, I think, 33 now, but oh, maybe they're both that old. I don't know. Like I said, my concept of time is so messed up. Anyhow, they hit hard, and it would happen a few times a game. It felt every time Paris Ford found a way to get there, and any time, there was a hard hit. Nasty. Always found the right way to get there to lay down that hit. He had surprisingly adequate play speed, and I say that because his pro day was awful. And I'll get to that with his negatives, but I thought the play speed was adequate. Like, it was average, which for him is a positive. When I saw it, because I saw his pro day first, and I was like, wow, that's really, really bad. And anyhow, I watched his tape, and I was like, okay, well, his speed's not that terrible. Then play strength is a definite plus as well. He has room to add on. I mean, he's only at 197 pounds right now, which kind of a negative at the moment, but I think that he has room to add, and he still has strength right now. Like I said, he lays the boom. He uses his body to the best he can to destroy people. Then oh, sorry, I was going to say the same thing I just said. Versatility is a huge plus with experience in both man and zone, cover 2, middle of the field, box safety, and even some slot corner. He has experience all over the field for them. I feel like maybe the only spot he didn't really line up is like the inside linebacker slot, but I'm sure he could. I'm sure he has. I'm just kind of forgetting. He probably could be an inside linebacker if he put on some weight. Just he's undersized, but regardless, I think I liked what I saw from it with the versatility standpoint. Then he's pretty good at catching. Like, his interceptions were pretty solid. I was like happy with them. I was like, that's a lot of wide receivers would even drop that ball, and he kind of fights for it. And then he's solid with the ball in his hands. Again, for a guy that really underperformed at his pro day, he was kind of adequate with like moving around and shifting and like play speed. I felt like he was good with the ball in his hands once he did get it. So now let's get to the negatives. He has a tough time getting off blockers, and he lacks the vision to avoid guys coming into block. I felt like that was a big problem for him. He was focused on the ball, and he found it, but he would run into guys because he wouldn't see them. He would be just looking past them towards the ball and wouldn't see these blockers coming at him. And again, he had a tough time getting off those blockers. So in some areas, his play strength wasn't that great. I felt like overall, because the way he was hitting, I thought his play strength was good. But he could be a better hand fighter, and maybe a little bit more strength in his arms would help him. Not exactly sure what would actually help there. Maybe a combination of both. What's going to really fix that? But he definitely should work on it. Then again, he's undersized weight-wise. He's definitely undersized to play inside linebacker, so a team really shouldn't consider him there at 197 pounds. And he's a little undersized for safety. I mean, it's not terrible. There are some exceptions. We know that Tyrann Mathieu has been a great NFL player, and he's 5'8". He came out at 5'8", 183, I believe. And so it's not impossible to play at his weight, but probably undersized for most players, and usually it doesn't work out. Then he has average to below average long speed that hurts him in man coverage at times. I thought that faster guys really messed him up, and he kind of needed a little bit of a head start because he didn't have that long speed. Then he has inconsistent closing angles that get him out of position, like the touchdown he gave up against Notre Dame. That was tough. The whole Notre Dame game was really tough to watch. I saved that one for last, not really by accident, just because I didn't know how bad it would be. But that Notre Dame for Pitt was awful. I think it ended 45-3. It was just everyone was having a bad time in that game. It wasn't just him. Then he's sometimes too aggressive, causing him to miss tackles by a lot. It makes him an inconsistent tackler. It's just often not. He has the vision to find it, but he just doesn't take like the right angles all the time. When he's too aggressive, when he goes for that big hit, he does miss the tackle every once in a while. That's kind of what I mean by inconsistent tackler. Then he's a poor athlete. Now, this is where we're going to get into his pro day, because this was really, really bad. He got a relative athletic score of just .33. This is on a 10-point scale, and he got a .33. That ranks in the bottom 25 of all 734 strong safety prospects between 1987 and 2021. So, with extremely bad 3-cone times, 40 time, and vert, those are the ones that weighed him down the most. He had really bad 3-cone time, bad 40 time, and a really bad vert. So, that was unideal. The only thing that really saved him is because he wasn't short. Or that short. He got a grade of good for his height, but like that was the only thing that kept him from going lower. If he was like an inch lower, he probably would have been the worst athlete considered. Because I don't know if I explained this. I think I explained relative athletic score last time, but what goes into his height, weight, and basically all the pro day activities, and like it's compared to other safeties that have come out, and it's graded on a scale of 0 to 10, and then they're given then they're told where they rank. This is from, shout out to @MathBombs on Twitter, or @MathBomb, not no S. He's the one that kind of posts this and does this. But yeah, and it takes into factor all that, and it looks at all the guys from the past years and ranks them. And that's how I know he ranks in the bottom 25 of all 734 strong safety prospects between 1987 and 2021. So, with that being said, there's rumors of some character concerns relating to lack of effort, and that might have been why his pro day went as poorly as it did. There's rumors that he didn't prepare at all for it, which would explain why his play speed wasn't as bad. I mean, he's still going to be slow, like slower compared to other safeties, but I found it adequate. But the lack of effort there is going to be a concern, and if the rumors are true, that is, it can be a big deal for some teams. Some teams just won't deal with it. Then the last thing is that he may be limited to just his zone scheme at the NFL level because of his slowness. It depends. I mean, he should probably put on weight to play his position, and that's likely going to slow him down more. So that's going to hurt. He's going to have to decide whether he wants more strength at the NFL level or he wants more speed, or to stay at the same speed he's at because he's not that fast. Personally, I would just add the strength. I don't think he could really get much slower. So, but that might limit him to his own scheme. At the NFL level, it might not be as versatile. So overall, other than the Notre Dame game, Ford passed the eye test more often than not. There are a lot of problems to work on, and the lack of effort questions coming in against him, supposedly not preparing at all for his pro day. Which, if he doesn't want to put in the effort, he will be out of the big leagues just as fast as he gets drafted. But it's tough to rank him because of that. It's going to be who wants to take a risk like that, and there are going to be teams, and this smells like the Cowboys. Paris Ford smells like a Cowboys player. Yeah, like they're willing to take that risk on low character guys. Not that Paris Ford's low character, but they're willing to take on guys with an ego, guys that might have that have character concerns, stuff like that. Smells, and they need defensive backs, I think, all in all. So Ford smells like a Cowboy, but we'll have to see. That's just kind of like a guess from now. Like I said, it's tough to rank him. I really love his aggressiveness, but it worked as a double-edged sword. And with a lack of long speed, he really needs to work on his closing angles and pursuit angles to be able to maximize his abilities. I think that's the best thing for him. I think he adds strength and then works on his pursuit angles and closing angles so that he can be a better player against speed. And that's the best thing that's going to help him because his speed is just slow, and I don't think he could fix it. Anyway, I think Ford is going to be an early 5th rounder. Really, if there is a concern over lack of effort, if that's just a rumor and teams have no concern, he could be as high as a 3rd rounder, in my opinion. I thought that like I said, he passed the eye test, so I think he could be a 3rd rounder. It just depends on how teams view that effort concern, if there's any basis to that rumor. Anyway, to gather my opinion, I watched his highlights. I watched versus UCF in 2019. I watched versus Miami in 2020. And then I watched versus Syracuse in 2020. And I had the displeasure of watching Notre Dame offense versus Pittsburgh defense in 2020 because Notre Dame just ran over the Pittsburgh defense. And that brings me to my next prospect, which is Tyree Gillespie. I apologize if I say his name wrong. This one stinks because with the name because in all the tape I watched, they didn't say his name once. I have to just go based on the best I can do, and I think it's Gillespie. I apologize if I am pronouncing that incorrectly. He is from Missouri. He is 5'11" and 207 pounds. He is a free safety. He came out of high school as both a running back and safety and was labeled a 3-star recruit coming out of Florida. He received offers from Iowa State, Indiana, Marshall, and New Mexico before committing to Missouri to be able to get playing time in the SEC pretty quick. As a true freshman, Tyree got to play a lot of special teams and made 2 tackles. In 2018, he started as a core special teamer again. However, during a game against Alabama, Missouri's then starting free safety got benched, and he came in and remained the starter ever since then. For the 2018 season, he put up 48 tackles, 1.5 being for a loss, and also a sack. In the 2019 season, as a full-time starter, he was able to put up 50 tackles, 4 being for a loss, a sack, a forced fumble, and 7 pass breakups. In his final season in Missouri, through 9 starts, he was able to put up 46 tackles, 29 of them being solo, and also 4 passes defense before graduating and declaring for the draft. So, what's good about him is he's fast as heck, with great performances on the 40-yard dash and both the 20 and 10-yard splits. He had a really good pro day. I think that put him a lot more on the map and on the radar, at least for normal people. I had never even heard of him, honestly, before his pro day, and that kind of made me want to look at him. So it was interesting. Then he takes safe angles to the ball. And what I mean by that is he is always going to be in front of the ball in case he slips another defender's tackle. He will be there as a just-in-case option, which in some cases is good, some cases not. I put it as a positive because at least he's there. He's playing as a safety option. That is his position name. So I thought that was interesting from him. Then he's excellent as a blitzer when schemed open because of speed. He ended up with 2 career sacks because of it, and he rocked the Georgia quarterback with a nice hit in 2020. I think that their quarterback is JT Daniels. But I was happy with his blitzing capability. I thought that might be something he can possibly do at the next level with his speed. Maybe going forward, it depending on if he cracks a lineup at all. But then he's experienced playing single high. That was mostly what they asked him to do. I found that interesting. In the sense that I don't know if that's the best thing that Missouri should have done. I don't know if Bledsoe just isn't that good, and they shouldn't. Because honestly, I think that they should play cover 2. I think they would be better suited for it because, as far as I knew, that they had 2 safeties that are declaring for the NFL draft. It's probably better to do it that way. He might be more of a box safety or something like that, but still, they trusted Gillespie to play single high a lot probably because of his speed, probably because they knew that he could get sideline to sideline when he was at his fastest. Then I thought he did surprisingly well against Kyle Pitts when matched up on him. Besides a single play where Pitts blocked him out of making a tackle on Kadarius Toney, I thought that he was a decent player, pretty solid against Kyle Pitts. I mean, Kyle Pitts is being talked about as a generational talent. Obviously, if you watch the tight end episode, I think he's really good, and as a receiver, I think it's pretty great if you could cover him because it's not very easy to cover him. So, but getting blocked by him is kind of tough. Like, I wasn't a fan of Pitts blocking, but Pitts blocked for a touchdown on that play. So I guess I can't say Pitts blocking is that bad, but we're talking about Gillespie here. So overall, I was happy with him. Then for the negatives, he's not as involved with plays as my other prospects. That's just kind of as simple as it is. His tape was kind of awful to watch because half the time, like, I wouldn't even see him. He wouldn't be on screen. Like, it was just, he would do that thing where he played safety, where he would get near the play but not in it. He has the speed to work over to other plays. He typically doesn't get involved. Just always plays it safe and gets out in front. Which can be considered a good thing, like I said, but I want to see more aggression from him. I want him to get in there, try to rip the ball out. When he sees his guy with the tackle, like, I want him to get in there and stop maybe that extra yard that the guy's going to push forward with while the man takes it down. You could drive him backwards instead. So I want to see more aggression from him. Less of that too safe stuff. I want to see more aggression, more getting in there. Because you never know when you're going to force a fumble, too. Force a fumble, save a yard or two on big plays. You don't know. And you might... Football is a game of inches. Saving any yard or anything is good. So, again, I want to see more aggression from him. Then I thought he had bad missed tackles in the Georgia game. I thought that he had a really, really tough time in that game. It was mostly a running game, I felt like. Georgia wasn't really passing very much. And he struggled making quite a few tackles, and so that was disappointing. He's slow to get over in single high. This is why I thought that I don't know why they played single high so much. He has the speed. He doesn't use it. I think the change of direction speed is not very good, which is surprising for a player like him. He did really well this pro day. You'd expect a little bit more better change of direction speed, but he's just not. He's too slow to get over, and I think it's likely due to poor play recognition. He's not gonna get there very often because he takes a while to process what's going on. Like, he has pretty bad instincts, and this made him overall not very good at the run, against the run. He just really struggled against the run game. I felt like with making bad tackles and stuff like that, he didn't have a very good time against the run. I thought as a coverage guy, I thought he was actually kind of decent. I thought, like I said, he did well against Kyle Pitts, but just not very good against the run. Then no interception in his career is a bit of concern. I felt like that's kind of crazy for a guy that played this much. I think that he had more playing time than I think most of my other prospects, if I'm not mistaken, because he started his career in 2018 halfway through. Then he got to play all of 2019, and then he got to play all of 2020. I think all my other guys didn't really get a start till 2019. It's up to the last one. I forget if my last prospect did actually get some playing time before then, but he has the most playing time and no interceptions to show for it. Not a good look. Not a good look to me, and I know that sometimes the no production is overplayed because guys like Denzel Ward didn't have production because they weren't targeted in college, but he was targeted. Like, it's not like he wasn't targeted. It's just slow to get there, and just I guess he has very poor ball skills. I don't really know. So overall, Gillespie isn't very good against the run, whether it be not getting involved at all or missing tackles. And then while he has a lot of experience in single high, I felt like he was a tad slow to get over to where the throw was coming from. He doesn't have a lot of starting. He does have a lot of starting experience, but there's athleticism there as well, so there's room for him to possibly grow, and thus I think he will be a 6th-round pick. The 40 and shuttle times were good, but I don't think it changes much for teams personally. It's just, if it changes anything, it might keep him from falling into the 7th. I can't imagine going higher than a 6 with him. I could see him going in the 7th, possibly. I don't think he's going to be an undrafted free agent. I think that a team is going to draft him, but you never know. There's always surprises. So, to form my opinion on him, I looked at his NFL draft profile by Lynn Sirloin. I watched his highlights. I watched LSU offense versus Missouri defense. And quick note, this game is why I will never be into college football. It was a mess. That game was awful to watch. Then I watched the Georgia offense versus Missouri defense in 2020. And then I did something kind of interesting. I didn't have enough tape on him, but once I started, I didn't want to stop and move to another prospect because I had already given up on Yusuf Corker. I watched Kyle Pitts versus Missouri. I watched that tape. I wanted to see if the tape from the Florida game and how Tyree did against Pitts, and it was actually really good tape. I felt happy with it. Of course, I only saw plays with Kyle Pitts on the field, but honestly, I want to see that more than anything. That's like the best player you could go against. So I was happy with that revelation. Anyhow, on to my last prospect, and that's Jacoby Stevens. He's from LSU. He's 6'1" and 212 pounds. He is also a free safety. He was a big deal coming out of high school in Tennessee, being labeled not only a 5-star recruit, but the 18th best prospect in the nation and the best safety prospect in the nation. He played receiver as well and was also desirable at that position too. So naturally, the top teams jumped on him with Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, and Oklahoma all making offers, but he chose the Tigers. As a freshman, he was a reserve player at both wide receiver and safety, as LSU hadn't decided what to do with him yet, and he got 2 receptions for 32 yards in that reserve role. In 2018, LSU decided he was best fit for safety based on need, while having Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Steven Sullivan, and a freshman they were excited about in Terrence Marshall Jr. Thus, Stevens became a safety. He played in 11 games that season and made 35 stops, 6.5 being for a loss, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 sacks, an interception, 5 pass breakups, and a fumble recovery. In 2019, he was an integral part to LSU's national championship run, playing in all 15 games, getting 92 tackles, 9 of them being for a loss, not 90, that'd be incredible, 5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups, and was recognized as a second-team All-SEC honoree. With only 2 years of starting experience, Stevens decided to return for the 2020 season, so okay, I did misjudge. Jacoby Stevens does have more playing time than Tyree Gillespie. However, the production from Jacoby Stevens is much, much higher from not that much more time. So, like I said, with only 2 years of starting experience, Stevens decided to return for the 2020 season despite being eligible to come out after the championship. And unfortunately, with the whole team being gutted, he wasn't able to put up the stats he had, but he was still solid, putting up 63 tackles, 6 of them being for a loss, 3 sacks, 4 pass breakups, a forced fumble, and 3 fumble recoveries through 10 games. Wasn't able to play that 15-game season through the playoffs, so wasn't able to have those incredible stats, but I mean, he matched them in the games he was given. So starting with the good stuff, he's probably the most sound tackler I looked at today. So he's good to come into balance to make the tackle, so I was kind of happy with that. Don't get me wrong, he's actually not that great of a tackler. This is why this is a weak safety class. I mean, even the guys that have something that I was happy with, it wasn't always good. He was very willing and will go sideline to make a tackle. He was all over the field. He belonged, honestly, Jacoby Stevens probably belonged in Alabama. This looks like an Alabama guy to me, but I mean, he was very, very good. And I honestly, after watching, you know what? I take that back. He belongs in LSU. He took number 7 and he fit number 7. Obviously, number 7 to LSU is a big deal. Usually their best guy takes it. Was Grant Delpit before, Tyrann Mathieu, other greats. Patrick Peterson, I believe, wore 7. It's a big deal for a defensive back to wear 7, and he took that in his senior year after Grant Delpit left. So, and I guess LSU. So I take back belong in Alabama. He did belong. He was right where he belonged, but he has solid hit power. Not the strongest. Paris Ford was definitely higher than his, but very good nonetheless. I was happy with how he hit folks. Then he lined up everywhere and can be considered as an inside linebacker like Ryan Shazier. Like, obviously, when Ryan Shazier came out, the question was whether he was going to be a safety or an inside linebacker at the next level. Stevens could possibly be an inside linebacker at the next level, especially he played in that position quite a lot. He kind of, I'm not going to say it's a straight comparison, but he did remind me like Tyrann Mathieu at times, especially wearing that 7, just bigger than Mathieu. But regardless, he follows the quarterback's eyes really well. At first, I thought he was kind of playing too slow, but then I realized he's really fast. He's fast enough where he could watch the quarterback's eyes and work over to where the quarterback's looking, and he's not like looking at who's in the area. He's just focused on the quarterback's eyes in zone. So I was happy with that, and I thought that he was able to make up for it because he's incredibly athletic. He got a relative athletic score on the complete opposite scale of Paris Ford. Granted, different comparisons because he's a free safety, and he's compared to other free safeties rather than strong safeties, but he got a score of 9.91 out of 10. This is good enough to rank 8th out of 760 free safeties, with his rarest trait being his 42-inch vertical. I believe he scored a 9.86 for his vertical because it was very, very rare. It might be even higher than that, but yeah. He's definitely fast for his size, comparing him to none other than Tyrann Mathieu. They ran the same exact 40 time, which again, Mathieu did have a pro day, but Mathieu has an official time, while Stevens doesn't have an official time. He only ran his pro day, but they ran the exact same 40 time at 4.5, with Mathieu being 25 pounds lighter. But still, even if he adds 0.1 to that, which I don't know if he would, running a 4.6 at 25 pounds 25 pounds heavier than Mathieu is pretty solid. Then he was really solid in coverage and in multiple kinds of coverages, so I was very, very happy with that. I mean, he played all over the field. He played in a pretty complicated system for him where he was an integral piece because he was a hybrid player where he could basically play anywhere. So I was impressed with his coverage skills in a lot of his different coverages. Then he was solid as a box safety and as a blitzer with stats to show for it. I mean, he got, I believe, 3 sacks in his final year, but in the championship run, he had, I believe, 5 sacks. I mean, he was a really good box safety and pretty good blitzer. Like I was happy with it. He's really a jack of all trades. He does a lot and can work in a lot of different systems. Anyway, going to his negatives, despite being the best tackler, still had his share of misses too. Like I said, he might have been the best tackler, but he's still inconsistent. Still couldn't secure the tackles, and where I really felt like he struggled as a tackler was against more physical players like tight ends and offensive linemen, like in South Carolina game. It's not just in the tackling department too, though. He really, really struggled just against bigger players. With an emphasis on the tight ends. If Missouri's quarterback was better, he would have had 2 long touchdowns over Stevens to tight ends before the first quarter was over. He really blew his assignment on 2 plays really early on, where one led to a touchdown. The other was just because Missouri's quarterback, I guess, just isn't very good, or wasn't very good for that one play. I'm not really sure because I haven't much focused on him, but Stevens should have been beat for 2 touchdowns early on in the Missouri game, and is a big part of why they lost that Missouri game. Anyhow, he struggled getting through traffic and getting off blockers. He wasn't very good at Miranding his way through. He got rubbed a couple times, and he wasn't able to see the guy coming to rub him, and it made it so that he couldn't get to the man, even though he knew where it was. So not very good at navigating the traffic, not very good at getting off blocks when he did get blocked. Granted, some of them were against offensive linemen. I think maybe once or twice I saw that, so that I don't really blame him for because it's tough going against an offensive lineman at his size, but still. The change of direction speed was just average on tape. So that is the opposite of Paris Ford. I mean, Stevens had a really good pro day, including the 3-cone, which kind of should tell you about, and the shuttle should tell you about change of direction speed. But I felt like it was just average on tape. Like, I wasn't super excited about it. It wasn't as high as his athletic pro day showed. Then he abandons his area too early at times and doesn't trust his teammates to set the edge. I saw a couple times where he had to maintain his gap integrity. And he thought a guy was going to bounce outside. And there was a defensive end there. And you don't know. I mean, maybe he just doesn't trust his teammates to set the edge, make sure he doesn't get around him. On one play again, I'm thinking of one play specifically against Missouri where he did this. He went to the edge and left a wide open area for the running back to go through, and it scored a touchdown. I really think was a big part of why they lost that game. I don't think they lose that game if he plays just a little bit better. Or just fills that gap, maybe. That might have been the one thing that changes everything. But he bounced out to the outside when it was kind of unnecessary, and it wouldn't have been his fault if the touchdown happened if he didn't do that, but he made that mistake, and he didn't trust his teammate to set the edge and gave up a touchdown. So I found that to be negative, and it happened more than once. It wasn't always a touchdown given up, but he needs to stop abandoning his area and trust his teammates to secure their area. Then he needs to be more combative at the catch point to break up the pass. I mean, he got a lot of pass breakups, but I felt like he could have had more if he was just a little bit more combative at the catch point. Then he struggled to find the ball at times, like on a play fake that led to a touchdown against LSU. Did I say LSU? I have no idea what team I meant when I wrote that. It was likely. Oh, it was Ole Miss. It was Ole Miss. It was the Ole Miss game I'm talking about. Because he struggled at finding the ball, and granted the entire LSU defense fell for that Ole Miss play fake, so it wasn't exactly his fault, but he needs to have better vision, not get beat like that. That'll not work at the NFL level. Like, the defenses can't let that happen. A defensive player can't let that happen. So overall, after watching the Vanderbilt game, I really thought I was going to turn around and call Stevens the best safety in this class and severely underrated, because I'd really never heard of him. He didn't feel like a big to me. When LSU went on their championship run, he's not one of the names that I really heard a lot of. I mean, it's probably because he didn't come out last year after the championship run, but I still, and that's probably me. Probably everyone would be screaming like, "How do you not know this man's?" Again, as I remind everyone every episode, I do not watch college football and will not because of games like the LSU-Missouri one that I had to watch twice because of this, and I got to watch both sides. But it turns out you shouldn't base your opinion on one great game against a really bad team, because as far as I know, Vanderbilt is a really bad team. And but Stevens isn't bad, but he isn't the best safety in this class, as he has his downsides as well. But he's not projected to go in the first or second round. To me, Stevens projects as a fourth rounder, but the versatility where some people even think he could play outside linebacker at the next level. I saw that from Walter Football. I sometimes use them to gauge, okay, let me see where one person thinks a prospect is going to go. And I couldn't find him on the safety list. Then I couldn't find him on the inside linebacker list. And I was like, where is he? So I Googled him with Walter Football, and they say that they think he could be an outside linebacker, which I think is interesting. But his versatility is going to intrigue some teams. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him sneak into the third round, but I think he's a fourth rounder. More than likely. Probably early for fourth round. But for sources, I looked at his 2019 highlights. I watched his 2020 highlights. I watched for Vanderbilt in 2020 versus Mississippi State in 2020. Awesome game there, too, by the way. The Vanderbilt game wasn't the only awesome game he had. The Mississippi State game, he was nutty. Then South Carolina offense versus LSU defense 2020. The Missouri offense versus LSU defense 2020, which I unfortunately had to watch again. And then I watched the Ole Miss offense versus LSU defense in 2020. So that brings me to ranking the prospects. And this one was kind of tough. Okay, I was going to start from bottom up, but let me go top up. Top up, top down. So the number one guy for me was Paris Ford. I loved how he carried himself. Not a very good athlete. There might be some character concerns, but Pittsburgh runs through his blood. I think he would be a solid pick. I love how he played. I don't know if I buy into the low-effort player, because he does not look like that on tape. But, I mean, if the rumors are true, I'd still want to take the risk on him if he falls. Like, I would not be mad about Paris Ford in the fifth round. I'd be incredibly happy about it. That's a risk I'm more than willing to take with a fifth-round pick. I mean, the Steelers don't have a fifth-round pick, but if they trade it back. Anyhow, I would be happy with the Steelers taking him in the fourth round, where they do have two picks. The comp pick fourth would be so nice. But anyway, that next I have Jacoby Stevens. Stevens in the fourth round I think would be a solid pick as well. It would be basically taking a better Marcus Allen, where you get a hybrid safety inside linebacker slash inside linebacker, I should say, for certain packages, and hope Stevens can develop into a better player later if you need a new starter eventually, or if there's an injury. Again, knock on wood, please no hurting my Minkah Fitzpatrick or Terrell Edmonds. They're pretty good together, but I like the versatility he would bring, and I think he'd get some playing time pretty quickly because he is an upgrade over Marcus Allen and can play kind of all over and be used in different packages. Third, I have Tyree Gillespie. He's a solid player for developing. I wouldn't be mad if we went after him in the 6th as a flyer guy. Just wasn't in love with this tape. Granted, I will say, out of all the prospects I looked at, I had the smallest read on him. Because he wasn't involved on so many plays, I really didn't get to see him that much. There was no one that was breaking down Tyree Gillespie tape for me, where it was just showing clips of him when he was involved. So I would watch, and I would just kind of basically be watching the defense play, and just try and hope that he got involved and I could see him and see what he did. So I have the smallest read on him. So if he turns out good, I'm not going to be mad, or turns out really bad and undrafted, I won't be mad about that either. But I don't mind him as a developmental guy with his athletic abilities. Then that leaves Trevon Merrick for last. It's not that he's a bad player. Not that at all. I don't think he's worth a first-round pick, though. And then even if the Steelers traded back, I wouldn't want them to go safety. Like, say, if they trade from 24 to 33. I just wouldn't want them to go safety there. I just don't like the idea of that. It's not one of the Steelers' biggest needs right now, and he could play special teams immediately, and that's nice, but I just feel like it shouldn't be the Steelers' pick. I might rather them even go running back at that point. But so here's the thing. If they're not trading back, I think I'd rather Merrig. I just messed up his name, Merrig. But if they trade back to like 29 or 31, I'd rather them go running back. I think it's just more worth it at that point. To go running back and get more picks, because now you have more picks. But anyway, yeah, you guys have been listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. It's been season 6, episode 6. Next week, possibly Monday. Don't hold me to it. Possibly Monday, early Tuesday, I'll have running backs out. It should be another solo episode if I do. I am going away for the week on Tuesday, so there won't be another episode until at least the 13th or 14th. So I'm going to try my hardest to get running back out by Monday, April 5th, or Tuesday, April 6th. I'll schedule it to post, but no promises there. Might not be ready until April 13th. Anyhow, if you want to check us out, you could go to our links down in the description below, where we have our social media and stuff, and other places where we post, place on SoundCloud, YouTube, and all that. But yeah, go check us out, and everybody, have a good night. Go Steelers.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.